I'm really delighted that you're joining us for this evening. It's going to be a fascinating subject, and I know I'm really interested in it. Now, certainly from my perspective, I've seen photography used so well. I've been a member of IWA's marketing committee for the past probably nearly 5 years now. And it's been tremendous to be able to draw on a really good library and source of photographs. It's been really important in our campaigning activities and in terms of being able to show real examples of the waterways to funders and other organizations who perhaps don't know what we're doing as much as we do. So photography is a really important tool in our box in terms of all of the activities that we've got. So Margaret, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm really looking forward to what you've got to say, and straight over to you to share your screen and introduce yourself. Thank you.
So my name is Margaret Beardsmore. Let me see, what can I tell you about me? Well, I live in Staffordshire, despite my Lancashire accent. I've been down here, about 30 years. And not long after I came down to Staffordshire, my husband and I had a boating holiday, a hire boating holiday. And well, that was the beginning, really. We hired a boat for a week. And pretty soon after that, we bought a small boat. And then eventually we bought the boat that we've got today, which is, nearly 30 years on. I joined the IWA shortly after moving down here. I had a client to see, and they happened to live on the canal in Penkridge. And we spent 2 hours talking about canal boats and about canals and one thing and another like that. And somehow or other, I ended up going to an IWA meeting, and somehow or other, I ended up joining, and somehow or other, I ended up being a committee member for a lot of the last 30 years. I'm currently not on the committee, I'm having a bit of a break. So that was my interest in the canals. We live in Rugeley. The canal goes through, the Trent and Mersey Canal goes through Rugeley, and in fact it goes down the bottom of my garden. So it's always a source of inspiration, especially this year when times have been so difficult for everybody. It's been a joy. Let's see, my interest in photography, well, I suppose when the grandkids started coming along, you start getting a little camera, don't you? You start taking snaps and that sort of thing. About 10 years ago, something like that, I joined Rugeley and Armitage Camera Club. Really because I wanted to find out more about photography and sort of just develop an interest. I didn't know what I was doing at all, really. I just pressed click, something I thought was interesting. And I'm still one of their members. It's been something I've enjoyed, and my photography's developed as the club has. When we first started the club, we thought we were doing really well if we got a photograph inside with somebody there and they didn't have the radiator behind them and it was more or less straight and you could actually see that they got a face rather than a big black blob, because it was all in shadow. But we've all moved on a little bit. And since then, I joined the Royal Photographic Society. Then I got a licentiateship with them, it's just a measure of you can take a half decent photograph. And I'm part of their landscape group and their documentary group and their nature group. And we go out on trips and they run workshops. And the idea is really to improve our photography and just make friends and be sociable, that type of thing. So that's me. So moving on, today what we're going to talk about are waterscapes and some people photography and also a bit about how you can develop a little story if you want. So I'll start with the waterscapes and what makes a good image. And my hope is that you learn something from this that can help you with your own photography. I shan't dig too deep into all the technicalities, so don't worry about it. But there's some things that you can do that we can all do that are fairly straightforward, and it means that you'll probably get a decent image at the end of the day, or even when you're out there taking your photograph. So this is a scene on the Coventry Canal that I took last autumn. It's somewhere near Huddlesford. Why is that doing? Can you see that in the middle? No, I don't think you can. Yeah, sort of early autumn, I went for a walk along the canal and I took my camera with me. And autumn's a lovely time to take photographs because it's so colourful. You know, I am stating the obvious here. So why I think this one works is you've got a nice leading line into it. Now, what I should say to start off with is you're looking at a photograph which is a two-dimensional thing. But when you look at what you're looking at, you're seeing 3 dimensions. You know, you're seeing the full screen, you're seeing the full scene as you walk, you know, front to back. It's 3-dimensional. So the idea of a photograph, especially a landscape or a waterscape, is to try and make people think that they can walk into that image and to try and turn it into a 3D image. And one of the easiest ways of doing that, excuse me, is to have a leading line through it. So if you look, we've got the canal going through. We've got, you know, it makes it so easy because you've got the canal going from left to right. You've got a towpath going from the front to the back. And then you've also got the boats in the background, which are also following the line of the canal. So you've got a very strong leading line leading you into your image. And that works not just for canal photography, for any sort of photography. If, say, you're going for a walk up Cannock Chase and you see a path and the path leads you into the image, it will help with your composition, no end. You'll also see on the front of the image, especially over the right-hand side, there's a tree that's hanging over, and it just comes in a bit at the top left-hand side as well. And what that does, it acts as a frame for your image, and it adds another dimension. So you've got a beginning of the image, you've got the front, you've got a leading line. You want a subject in there, and the subject in this one, oops, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. That's it. The subject in this one is the boat that's on the third on the right-hand side. Now, putting subjects on a third is a very strong compositional tool. It works very well. And, you know, you get photographers saying, oh, the rule of thirds, da-da-da-da-da. And they keep blathering on about the rule of thirds because it does, in fact, work. So if you're composing an image and in your back screen on your camera, you can imagine that it's got 2 horizontal lines intersected by 2 vertical lines, just a bit like if you're playing OXO, you know, OXO. If you put what you want to be your main subject on the intersection of 2 of the thirds, any of them will do, you'll find that it makes for a well-composed image. So we've got a leading line, we've got a nice frame to the subject, we've got the subject that's on a third, but we also have to consider the background. And this is one of the hardest things to actually consider if you're new to photography. But sometimes it can be the most important thing because it can be distracting. It can be just plain wrong. So if you can have something that looks like it should be there in the background, that's always helpful. And also avoid distractions, especially around the edges of your photo, because they will drag your eye away from your main subject and for what you want people to look at. So especially watch out on the canals for things like dog bins, empty bottles, you know, plastic bottles that somebody's thrown away, random fishermen that you've only got half a fisherman in, that type of thing. So I think I've said enough about this image. Right, moving on. There we are. Right, we're now up the Calden Canal. And myself and my husband, we walked up from Frogall, and I think it was probably spring, excuse me, of last year. It looks like spring because it was very green. And it must have been quite early on. There were no boats moving at all. But again, we've got a leading line, the canal, and see how still it was. And we've got pretty much the same composition at the front. I've got a tree framing the picture. And on the left-hand side, we've got a bit of interest. There's some nice attractive cottages, and that balances the left to the right-hand side. So that's always good. But then there was nothing moving. So I got Derek to walk down the canal in front of me. And I waited till he was about where he is now. I took a few different shots of this because I wasn't sure which one would look best at the end of the day. But what I wanted him to do was to walk slowly so that I could, you know, get him in motion. And what I was trying to do was to get his legs looking like he's walking rather than two legs stuck together in a clump, if that makes any sense. You can see that his left hand arm is away from his body, so that's good. But his right hand arm isn't away from his body, so that's less good. But on the whole, I think it probably works quite nicely. And it does make a change not having a boat on a photograph anyway. Next one, where are we next? Oh, right, okay. So now we're up the Peak Forest. This is the Macclesfield Canal where it enters the Peak Forest at Marpole Junction. And I thought it was a really interesting place because the cottages through the bridge as you just turn the corner are ever so nice. They're really well kept. And so I took the photograph, and the bridge is absolutely stunning. There's lots of absolutely delightful old bricks, and it's well kept. And then we've got some ducks coming along, which are always good for added interest. We call them living landscapes, waterways, and that's because it's also always a lot of things alive around, you know, and it would be very sad if, you know, there were no people, no ducks, no moorhens, no boats, no nothing. It would, I suppose, be a ditch, wouldn't it, really? So the sort of things that you need to look out for if you're taking buildings. So this applies to any building, not just on canals. The main thing that you need to think about is to keep your camera straight. And you would think, again, that would be really easy. But in actual fact, it's not that easy because your eye, it tends to look at the things that you're finding interesting, like the ducks. And when you start looking at the ducks, then your camera will dip, but you need to keep it straight. If you don't keep it straight, what will happen is you get what's called converging verticals, which really it's a fancy way of saying that your straight up bits won't be straight. They'll lean one way and the other and the other. So that's my top tip for buildings. Just keep your camera straight. And also take more than one photo. Take a few while you're at it, and then you can pick the best one when you get home. So next one, right, we're up to brood. Excuse me for sniffling, I've got a bit of a cold. I needed an autumny photograph. And I hadn't got any photographs at Brood. So I took a walk up, I drove up there and thought I'll take a walk up the canal. I've got a couple of hours to spare. So it wasn't first thing in the morning. It was about probably about 10 o'clock by the time I got there. It's a bit of a drive from me. But I wanted the atmosphere that you get in autumn. And so what happened was I got down to the bridge, not this bridge in the photograph here, the bridge that's behind us, for want of a better term. And as I got to the bridge, I could see this boat, the other side of the bridge you can see in the photograph. And I could see the smoke because he must just have put some coal on his fire. So I ran down the canal and I seem to remember I had my Wellingtons on that didn't fit very well, or I hadn't got my boots laced up or something like that because my feet were going all over the place. So I ran down the canal quite a way so that I would be in the right place for when this boat came through. And then I got to find where I wanted to stand to get my composition. So I wanted the boat to be through the bridge. I wanted to see as much smoke as I could. I wanted a reflection. But I also wanted the boat not to be too far to the right-hand side of the image. And one of the things to look out for if you're taking things moving, so that's boats or horses or ducks or people or anything like that, is that you want to leave enough space, in this case on the right-hand side because it's going left to right. If it's going the other way, to be on the left-hand side, obviously. So enough space for it sort of to breathe, if that makes sense. Enough space that you think that it's got room to go into. And if you have it just, the boat really up the edge, it just looks wrong. So anyway, the boat duly came through the bridge. Lots of nice smoke, blowing all over the place, which was great. And then I got a bit lucky because that lady under the bridge just came through the bridge at the right time in silhouette. And I just thought, oh, that's the image that I want. Having said that, I've got another 20, all similar. I hardly ever just take one because you never quite know when you're taking your image which one you're going to like best when you look at the camera. It's very, very difficult to consider everything on the back of your little tiny screen. And until you get it on your computer at home, you're better off just taking too many and then just getting rid of them when you do that. What else shall I tell you about this? All right, taking things that are moving. If you normally have your camera on automatic, it'll probably take a good photo a lot of the time, but your camera won't see what you're seeing in front of you. So your camera won't see that boat's moving. It wouldn't see that a bird was moving or a horse or anything. It would just think that it's looking at something still, unless you find a way of telling it that something's moving. If you don't tell it something's moving, you might well not have a fast enough shutter speed to keep what you're looking at in focus. So if you get your camera out at some stage after this, you'll probably find a dial or something there that will have some little signs on it. And one of them should look like a sportsman. And that's for movement. So you can just put your camera onto that and it will adjust the settings automatically for you. And you should get a better, more in focus image of things that are moving. And then you can put it back to automatic afterwards if you like. So just a hint. So let's move from Brood. Right, we're now up to Hazelhurst Junction. Earlier this year in September, we got the boat, we took it up the Calden Canal, and we started off, we went down the Leek Arm, and then eventually we went part of the way down the Frogall Arm. But we moored up that afternoon just round the corner from this photograph on the Leek Arm. And it was absolutely superb, the light round there, and the trees, they were wonderful. They were, you know, just at the best. I got really lucky. So once we'd moored up, I went round and I took quite a few photographs around that area. So I should talk about light, because light, it's such an important part of your photography, especially if you're taking landscape. In an ideal world, they call it the 2 golden hours of a day. So that's about an hour after sunrise and about an hour before sunset that you get the best light of the day. More or less. It's not always exact. And of course it depends. If it's a horrible grey Tupperware sky type of day, you don't get any sort of light. But on this day, it was really, really nice. And what happens, the reason why you get this lovely light is because the sun's trajectory is quite low there. And so the light is going through the Earth's atmosphere and all the dust particles. And that makes it a lot softer light than in the middle of the day. If you take your photographs around lunchtime, it's a harsh light. You get strong shadows. It's just not as nice. But you know, if you're going on holiday and you get somewhere in the middle of the day, you're going to take your photograph if you're in a nice place. You know, what else can you do? You know, you've got to make the best of what you've got. But sometimes you get lucky. So this is Hazelhurst Junction. It's a slightly different sort of photo from me, in that there's no boats, no ducks, no nothing. It's not even a straightforward leading line. But what it does, the reason I think it works is that you've got a triangle of interest. So you've got the post, the Hazelhurst Junction post, which is an attractive post, I think. So that is one line, one part of your triangle. You've got the bridge going up to the right, which is another part, and then you've got the canal going up to the left, which is another. So a triangle can be quite a powerful composition tool. It's not usually used on canal photography that much, but it does work rather nicely, and it makes it a bit different. And so next, if we move around the corner, right, I took a walk down the Frog Hall Arm a little bit, not far, because by this time I wanted my evening meal and I got to make it. Excuse me. And just down from the top there, there's the lock, and there's this rather attractive little hut on the right-hand side, and there was a good reflection, which I liked. And then you've just got the locks going downhill. And if you look in the background, there's a man walking up the locks, right in the distance. And we've got the canal going down, and we've got the path, and it's nice light. It was just such a beautiful evening. Brings back happy memories to these photos. So, right, so we're now moved on to the Peak Forest. This is a couple of years ago. And if you've ever been up the Peak Forest Canal, the Macclesfield and the Peak Forest are stunning. The Peak Forest is, you get views to die for, providing the weather's good, of course. And you get these lovely lift bridges, which are a pain to do, but you know, they do look nice. Anyway, we were behind this little hire boat, and we were behind him for miles and miles and miles. And so Derek's steering the boat, and I'm sat up the front thinking, I'm going to get a photo of it going under that lift bridge. I want a photo of him going under that lift bridge. Anyway, eventually he comes to the lift bridge, and I did get my photo of him going under the lift bridge. And I think that could work quite nicely because it's, you know, it's a red boat, there's a red stop sign. You've got a nice angle of the lift bridge. Angles are always good. and it works a lot better having a lift bridge up than it does level. If you have the lift bridge level, then that stops your eye going into the picture. So by it being up, it just takes your eye right through. As I was saying to start off with, it makes it more of a 3D image. And you can use this sort of lift up is better than a lift down idea if you're taking your own photography, and maybe it's a straightforward landscape with a gate. If you open that gate, your picture will nearly always be a lot better than if you close the gate. I mean, you have to make sure you don't let all the sheep through it first. It's you know, that wouldn't be popular, but you know, if it's safe enough, open the gate, take your photograph, and then close it again. Moving on. Oh, right, we're now on the Coventry Canal. Excuse me, we're at Hotworth, and I took this last, not this year, 2019, autumn 2019. And I was looking for a photograph, an autumn photograph from somewhere I hadn't got one for one of my calendars. I sell Waterways cards and calendars and jigsaws and all sorts, that sort of thing. So I just wanted a nice photograph of somewhere where I hadn't got one before. And so I drove to Hotworth. On the right-hand side of the green boat, there's a car park just off the towpath. So I just got out my car, gone onto the towpath, and I'm looking around and thinking, well, yeah, that green boat, yeah, that's okay, but it's still, and really I want something moving and something a bit more interesting. And then I saw this boat coming up. It was at the other side of that bridge. So again, I waited. I stood where I wanted to be, and then I waited for him to come to me. And I took photographs all the way up with me standing still, but with the boat coming just with the front under the bridge, and then towards me and towards me and towards me and towards me, till he was where I thought he looked best. If you're taking photos of boats coming through bridges, you really need the boat to be far enough through so that the person's head is visible at this side of the boat, so this side of the bridge, sorry, if that makes sense. If you've got half a boat and a head on the other side of the bridge, it tends not to look that good. But what I really like about this is the dog looking around the back of the boat. I think that is just so sweet. So I got my photo, and it was a nice day. It was a nice reflection, and I was happy. So we are coming towards the end of the Waterways, the waterscape images. This one I took, this is in Whittington, Whittington Wharf, on the Coventry Canal. And this I took on the 30th of January, 2019. And it was really, as you can see, it was really frosty. I was looking for winter images. And I know this boat well. I know it always looks nice. I know where it is. And I thought I might get a cup of coffee as well, but Eric and Doreen Wood were out that day. So what I tried to do was to get the ice showing in the canal. I tried to get a bit of a reflection and a leading line. It's a very simple picture, but it worked for me. You know, it showed that it was winter. Now the following day was that one day when we had around our part of the world anyway, we had a really heavy hoarfrost, and that was it. And really, I was on my way to this. It's a long story. I was on my way to Somerset to go on a photography course, take long exposures in Somerset. Excuse me. But I also needed a photograph, a winter photograph of Lichfield Cathedral. So I'd set off early to get a winter photograph of Lichfield Cathedral and the hoarfrost. However, when I was driving into Lichfield, I realised that the fog was that thick I couldn't see Lichfield Cathedral. So, well, what do? You know, I don't want to go back home. I'm really on my way to Somerset. So I know I'm going to need at least an hour or two before this mist clears. I'll see what's happening down the canal. So this isn't far away from the last photograph that I just put on. This was taken by the Plough pub at Huddlesford. So on the other side of the hedge, on the right hand side, is the pub car park. So I'd gone through there and I just took some photographs around the canal, winter photographs again, because they're quite difficult to find. You know, we don't get so many bad winters these days. So I took quite a few of that day. And this is a really simple image, really simple. But I think it works because the boat's nice and bright and everything else isn't, I suppose. And I think that's the end of those. Right, okay. So we've now got a few shots of people enjoying the waterways, because the waterways are living landscapes. So I don't really know whether they call these people shots or landscape shots, but anyway, we'll go from there. So this is the Shopify pub at Audlem. Again, it was early this year. With people sitting around enjoying the pub. And it's an attractive place. It's very difficult not to take a good photograph around there. And you've got Audlem Mill in the background, always worth a visit. And people were just enjoying the day. You know, I didn't ask any permission to get these photographs. They just are what they are. They're not important, you know, they're not important. Each person isn't important to the photograph in itself. I was taking several people just enjoying themselves. All right, okay. Now the next three, excuse me, aren't exactly on a waterway as such, but the waterway related. These are taken from the Northampton Festival of Water, which was in 2015. And so I just want to give you an idea of what goes through my mind if I'm taking photographs of things where there's a lot of stuff going on that I want to take photographs of people. So these were the Morris dancers. And of course, there's lots of people then start looking at them. So what I did, I have a little stool, £4.99 home bargains. Other shops are available. And I just got myself in a place and I sat on the stool and waited for things to develop. And then what happened was these people were then watching the Morris dancers. And this little lad, he was doing his best to find out what was going on with this wheelchair. And then he'd been jigging. Oh, he was having a whale of a time and his mother's trying to control him. And sometimes it's a good idea just to sit and watch and wait what happens. I mean, they got no idea I was taking the photographs. You know, I had no plan on using them commercially, but it just amused me. And next one. This is from the same festival. And I put this in because people quite often have a problem photographing children. Because as we all know, children run around manically and you can spend a whole morning running around after them. They won't have the photograph taken, you'll get annoyed and it all ends in tears. But if you wait till they're tired, eventually they just stop. And as you can see, this little girl was tired. It was about 4 in the afternoon and she just sat down on her daddy's foot and waited for things to happen, go round by her. And I just sat down on the grass at one side and took the photograph. And I just thought it was so sweet at the time. So people enjoying the canals, right? These are people that were helping us through the lock this year. And they were quite happy. I said, do you mind if I take your photograph? They look nice, pleasant chaps. And they had a bit of a laugh and a joke, and they were quite happy with it. I mean, it's nice to take people that help you, isn't it? I think. I must have been standing on the steps when I took this. I can't see where else I would have been standing, and I've attempted to get it framed with the canal, the lock bridge. Right, okay. This one, I must have been doing the lock for this one, because there it's on the back of the boat. And I would have been talking to this lady and a little boy, and I'd have asked if it was all right if I took photographs, and she'd have said yes, no doubt. And I just like the way he's standing in this. It's just weird. It's just seriously weird. But then kids do weird things, don't they? And they bend things that aren't meant to bend, and it's just nice. It's just a lovely day, lovely memory. And that's what we do, isn't it, really, with most of our photos. You know, we want to take those memories. It's not always just a snap. And this is the last one in this little section. And this is up by the Anderton boat lift, because we were going down to the River Weaver. And what happened was I'd gone up there before Derek, because Derek's in the boat in the background there. And this little lad was there with his, he must have been about 8, he was there with his mum, and his mum had a pushchair, I think, and they'd been feeding the swans. And he was just so cool. I mean, what kid wears a hat like that, you know? And he's just like a little Charlie Chaplin, isn't it? The way he's standing. I just thought it was, I mean, he was such a funny little boy. He was just charming. And that's probably one of my favourite photographs of the whole holiday. You know, this little boy. It looks like he's talking to them, doesn't it? Anyway, so where are we now? Let's see. Right, okay. So what I'm going to talk about now is a little bit about taking portrait shots, proper portrait shots, but as in environmental portrait shots, as opposed to studio portraits. And it's generally, it's all about focusing on the eyes and a bit of decent lighting. So taking the photograph is the easy bit. All you're going to do is press click. Getting your subject to engage, and either with you or with something else, that's the difficult bit. But it can be as difficult as you care to make it, but you do need that engagement or you won't get a decent shot. Now, the young lady on the left, that I know her parents well, and she knows me, so that was an easy shot. And she's a nice smiley little girl. It's very simple. She's looking straight at the camera. I probably asked her to tilt her head a little bit because that makes it look nice. It's better than straight on. And she would have been in the Waterways, sorry, the Wild Over Water tent, because that's where she normally helps, which is white, as a lot of IWA marquees are white. And that's really helpful for photographs because you get all the light bouncing from all the walls inside. And it just gives you a nice soft light, which is very flattering. So if ever you can get people in a white marquee, you're usually onto a winner. You know, but I've got her parents' permission to take the photograph. Obviously, she was happy with it. You do need to be careful when you're taking photographs of children, and just common sense, really. Now, the lady on the right, that was the first time I'd met her. And she was one of the stall holders at this, sorry, both of these were at a canal festival. I think they're at, which one? I think they were at Ilkeston, I think. And I think she was involved in some charity, and she brought along these pet mice? I think they're pet mice rather than pet rats. And she's got a face all made up and everything. Should have been an easy photograph to take. And I really struggled. She really did. I don't know. She looked at me and it wasn't right. And then she got a mouse out and it was on her shoulder and she looked sideways at it. And that was the photograph, you know. And it's not always about them looking straight at you. It's them being engaged with something. As long as they're engaged with something, that's the key thing. Right, so there we are. Right, okay. Oh, I've moved on. Excuse me. There we are. Right, so again, lady on the left is somebody I know well. She was setting up the stand. I don't know what we were laughing about, but we were laughing at something. And because she's relaxed and because she's having a good time, it makes a good photograph. You know, you just put the focus on the eyes. Again, she's got a nice tilt and a lovely smile. You know, I think it's a great photo of her. Again, she's in a white marquee. Now, the lady on the right, oh, she didn't want a photograph taken. Oh, no, she didn't want a photograph taken. But what she did want a photograph of the creatures, the amphibians, whatever they are. So I said, okay, I won't take a photograph of you, I'll take a photograph of them. Okay, so I got her to come to the edge of the stand that she was in, so that she was just in the shade, which is always helpful. And I just got her to tilt her head a little bit while I took photographs of the whatever they are. And see, she's relaxed because she's showing off what she's proud of. You know, she's not the least self-conscious about herself, which is nice. Now then, I said originally, didn't I, that lighting's important for portraits. So what you find, you know, if you're taking photographs in summer, is you get this harsh sunlight, which is really not very good at all for taking portraits, because it gives really nasty shadows on your face and it makes you look quite drawn. So if it is that sort of a day, a nice bright sunny day isn't what you want really for portraits. So just get people to just stand slightly in the shade, find some shade from somewhere. You know, don't put them in the depths of a really dark bit, but just on the edge, and you'll find your photographs are such a lot better. Then it's an easy thing to do, especially if you tell them why you're doing it. You know, I want you to look nice, you know, just go and stand there. Right, so we've got some photographs now of volunteers. You know, we always want, IWA is a charity, we always want photographs of volunteers and people being helpful and what have you. And also I should say these photographs, especially some of the ones coming up of people in them, that they're not all with us anymore, you know, so it's, you know, it's been a bit mixed for me really, you know, it's nice memories but sad because, you know, maybe a friend of mine's not there, and in this case, yeah, my friend's not there. So this was a lock window that we had at Barton Turns Marina, and basically what we do is we sell a lot of homemade cakes. We help people through the locks. We try and get money off them whatever we can. We might get a membership or two if we're lucky. And then usually at the end of the day, we have a barbecue. So a bit of fundraising, a bit of goodwill, and a bit of fun, a bit of food. So, and luckily they were under the shade. So, and this is them again out there, you know, we've got people doing the lot, people handing out leaflets, somebody going through. It's an action shot. Nothing particularly technical about it. It's just being there with a camera, really. Okay. Now then, but Gemma and Alison in marketing says that some images are less suitable than others. So I'm putting one in now that's less suitable. And this is what the class is less suitable. Apparently they get a lot of photographs sent in that are people bending over. This probably isn't as bad as some, and I looked through some of my notes, some of the volunteering shots that I've got, you know, and yeah, it's surprising just how many you get people bending over, because that's what people do when they're volunteering. You know, they're bending over, they're lifting stuff, you know, they're putting things somewhere. They do a lot of bending. So if you are submitting photos to IWA, you know, try and get them to just stand up while you're taking them. At least most of them anyway. Right, taking photos of groups of people. Now then, these can be a nightmare if you let them, but not always. So this photograph was taken of it was the people that were start again, Margaret. Right, it's before the Pelsall Festival, and it was the group who organised the Pelsall Festival of Water. So before any sort of festival goes ahead, there are loads and loads of meetings, regular on-site meetings to discuss what's got to happen, what's got to go where, etc., etc. I think I'm running late. So this was the early one. They hadn't all got the uniforms. It was a bright, sunshiny day. You can see the harsh shadows, but I wanted a photograph, and the only time was before lunch because I was leaving after lunch. So we all trooped out of the meeting room, and I got everybody to arrange themselves by the canal. So we did our photograph. So arranging, what you need to do is have anybody that's wearing anything light not on the outside. They need to be somewhere in the middle, if at all possible. You need to arrange them so that you can see everybody's heads, if that's at all possible. Try and get them to take sunglasses off unless they're really against it, and try not to have them face on into the sun. And also take into account the background, which should, you know, be appropriate. And you probably just need to wiggle people around a little bit till all that happens. So, you know, to start off with, they're all saying, oh, the sun's in my eyes, right, okay, I'll move around this way, right, okay, oh, then the water's not in the right place, right, I'll move that way. Oh yeah, I can't see your head shift that way, and there we are. But you do need to organise them. They will say, tell us what to do, and you need to be bossy. So, excuse me, sniffling. Right, this one is volunteer workshop day, and I didn't realise I was supposed to be taking any photographs. I think I took this with my mobile phone. It's not the best in the world. Yeah, in an ideal world, I'd have had those handbags shifted off the floor, and I would have had a proper camera. You can see the people in the background. They're a bit blurred because the light wasn't that great, really. But you know, it was a photograph. The people wearing the bright clothes are in the front by and large, and it, you know, it did what it was supposed to do. So not everything's perfect. Right, this one works better, I think. This is at a branch walk. Now, because like most of these people know me, they know they're going to have a photograph taken. They do start arranging themselves now. I think I'm getting them quite well trained. So this works, I think, quite well, because we've got the lady in the red coat who's at the front. We've got Pat, sadly no longer with us, in the bright blue coat in the middle. And we've got the gentleman in the green looking like he's ready to climb a mountain. And the people in front are by and large looking happy. So that did me for that photograph. And I think one of the key things about taking these sort of photographs is that you need to be quick, because it's cold. People get fed up, and you won't necessarily get better photographs. So I would quickly go snap, 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 snap. Well, you're done. Moving on. Get going. Right, this one's one of my favourites. This is our offside vegetation team. They've been moving that boat. They're all mucking about. They've had a good time. They're filthy. Yeah, I don't know really what they were doing, why they were doing it, but I just think it's a lovely photo. Canal in the background. And these are just one or two from a festival. So it's not strictly a group photograph, but it just shows the people inside the marquee listening to looking at the band, you know, just so it shows the band isn't on their own. Again, an informal group shot. I seem to remember I did persuade them all to walk the way they walked in advance so that I'd get the photo in front of the marquee. I seem to remember bossing somebody about. And, you know, the man's very happy with his horse. The lady's even happier. Right, this is the last one of this lot. This is a sort of standard presentation shot. And I find these personally quite difficult to do because you have to get the right people in the shot and you have to get everybody else out of the way. And they nearly always seem to want to do presentations at lunchtime when the lighting's worse, and usually when I'm hungry, which isn't helpful. So again, you need to get it organized in advance, get them looking reasonably happy, and the right people in the photograph, and concentrate on the eyes. And, you know, it does what it says on the tin, I think. And again, don't mess about too long, they'll get upset. Okay, so this last bit is quite quick. And it's just about how you can tell a story with a few photographs, or a lot of photographs. And like all good stories, you need a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in the middle of it, you need a fair bit of variety of photographs. The one I'm going to show you is from the 2017 Ilkeston Festival of Water. There aren't a lot of photographs, or else we'll be here all night. And I'll have to click from one to the other because I can't use a video on Zoom. So I think you can use this hopefully for yourself. If, say, you're lucky enough to have a family party, say, if not now, in the future, or you're going to an event, or you're going on holiday. If you just think about it beforehand, and think about the sort of things that you want to photograph. And so say it's a family party and you think about it in advance. The beginning's quite easy. You can get there first. You can take photographs of, you know, the buffet and the cake, say, and maybe a few people coming. The end is problematic, or it can be. I never like to leave what I'm doing at the end till the end. I like to have a fallback position. So if it was a family party, I would be thinking, right, well, what I want a picture of whoever it is, who's the main person. I want a nice portrait shot for the end, or maybe I want the cake cutting. If I was going on holiday, I'd be looking, maybe I've taken a photograph of the map book to start off with, where we're starting, and take another one at the end of the map book at the end. So if you don't get an end shot, it's not too crucial. But usually if I forget anything, it's the end shot. So I try and do the end at the beginning. So let's see, we're looking then. So if you're looking at what I did here, you're looking for beginning photographs, you're looking for some variety in the middle photographs, and then you're looking for the end of it. And here we go, the Ilkeston Festival of Water, boats coming. I shan't talk much through this. They're just setting up the scene. Got that horse again. The bar's always good. Right, this is Vera. She was 99. I always try and take old people as well as the young ones. It gets too much for some people, yeah, just too much. I had a hard day. And here we are. We're on our way. It's another year. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. That's me. If you want to see some more of my photographs, you can get me on my website or my Facebook page. If you Google Margaret Beardsmore, I'm all over the place. So thank you very much.
Margaret, thank you very, very much for that. You are a great storyteller. That you've made that all so real for us. Those pictures were really engaging. Yeah, actually, you've made me very self-conscious about my photographs now, and particularly my Zoom backgrounds. Now, I'm really conscious that we're at 8:30, and I know that some of you won't be able to stay with us much beyond now, but we've got such a great number of questions that have come through in the Q&A window, and I think we'll try and answer as many of those as we can. So I'll probably let things run on for about 10 minutes. And if you need to leave us, fine. It's been lovely to see you tonight. But let's try and tackle some of these questions because they're fascinating and they cover a whole host of different things. Margaret, just going back to one of your earliest slides, that bridge, the view through the bridge at Marple. Phil Sharp's been asking, how do you avoid the bridge arch looking too dark? I know I've had shots like that. It's difficult. How do you get that view?
It is difficult. You know, you quite often end up with either the bridge too dark or the or what you're looking at too light. And it's more difficult on a bright day. If it's a dull day, you don't have the bigger contrast. I will have lightened that up in editing. I will have lightened that bridge up.
Okay, and actually that then covers a question that was asked a little bit later on. How much post-production or post work do you do?
Not an awful lot. Not an awful lot. It's very rare for me to do anything more than, you know, maybe take out a dog poo bin,
right,
or something like that. What I will do, if I think something's a bit too light, I'll darken it, and if I think something's a bit too dark, I might lighten it and increase the contrast, that sort of thing. But nothing serious. I wouldn't bother putting bolts where they shouldn't be, or doing anything major, because to me it seems wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. It should. A canal goes one way. You know, if you turn it the other way, it's not right, is it?
Yeah, I guess some people that know it will know that it maybe not quite the way it should be. So a question around the kit that you've got. Do you use different focal length lenses? Do you carry a lot of lenses with you?
Normally, I go out with one camera and one lens.
Right.
Which camera it is and which lens will vary. But normally I'll typically use a 24-105, a short telephoto lens. Some of those photos were taken with my mobile phone. Some were taken with, you know, with my big camera. Some were taken with my little camera. But I rarely take more than one lens because, for one thing, it's heavy.
Yeah.
You might have noticed I end up running down the canal. Towpath. And it gives you more things to get wrong. You know, if you can keep it simple, it's such a lot easier. You know, and usually you don't need to faff about with zooming. You just need to move your legs.
Well, you certainly sounded like you were pretty active in quite a few of those photographs, and actually making sure some other people were pretty active as well. Now, great questions come in from Ivor Kaplan. He said he used to enjoy the old-fashioned photography. We could have a bit out of focus and concentrate on the main subject. You didn't talk much about depth of field and so on. Any advice around that? And with digital, is that a little bit more difficult to achieve?
No. Right. So depth of field. So what either means is how much do you want to be sharp, as opposed to do you want your background to be blurred? So typically with a landscape, waterscape, you usually want it more or less all to be sharp, unless you're doing something arty-farty. So if you want to go into the technical aspects of it, you would either use a landscape setting on your camera. Automatic would probably do okay. And I don't really want to go into the professional side of things, because we would be here all, you know, it would be too technical, I think, at the moment. You know, you'd be talking f-stops and one thing and another. If you're taking portrait photography, if you go to your portrait setting on your camera, it will do it for you. It'll make sure that the people that you want in focus are in focus, providing you point your camera at them, that is. And the background will be slightly out of focus.
And just a straightforward question, what type of camera do you actually use? What make of camera?
I've got 2 Canon cameras. I've got one Fuji, right. And I've got an iPhone.
Any preferences there?
I don't like the Fuji.
Right. Okay.
It's going to be sold soon. Look, it's a personal preference. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't like it. I've had it 2 years. I still, it doesn't agree with me.
Yeah, I guess you just get familiar with the kit that you've got. So let's just look at some of these other questions. We've dealt with quite a few of them. Any tips on taking sunrise and sunset photographs? Because you seem to be quite keen on those low sun levels, particularly that one with the way posts and way markers in one of your earlier shots.
Just be there. Just be there at the right time. That's all you can do. I mean, the original photograph right at the beginning of my presentation, that was a sunrise shot, wasn't it? It was quite early, and I took that in my pajamas. I had my pajamas and my Wellingtons on. We're on the boat, and I woke up and I could smell smoke, and I knew it had been a cold night. I could smell wood smoke coming through the window. I thought, it's cold. I bet there's been a frost. And I stuck my head through the window and saw the mist. So there we are. Wellington's on over my pajamas, big coat, back up the canal to take a few snaps, you know, and it was, you know, I was just there at the right time. You just need to either get up or hang around till it is the right time.
Yeah, well, I've certainly found that, yeah, some of those mornings you can get out and find the frost on top of the boat. It's just absolutely magical. Or there's mist just rising off the top of the water, and you can get some great shots. So I think we may not have dealt with all of the questions, but I'm quite conscious that a few folks have had to leave us. So if we've still got some questions in the Q&A, we'll try and answer those after tonight. But Margaret, thank you so much for sharing that, and we'll look forward to seeing many more of your photographs over the years, just capturing those moments, freezing them in time, but making them alive for us and making them live again. That's been very, very special for us tonight, and I hope everybody that's been able to join us has enjoyed that. And you've got Margaret's contact details from that last slide. So please do make sure you contact her. But Margaret, thanks for joining us. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye-bye, people.